Good afternoon. This is Trang Vo at the California ISO. Thank you for joining us for the Release User Group, the last one of the year, December 19, 2024. This call and webinar will be recorded and published on the release planning page for a limited time for your convenience. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for confirming the audio and that you can see the presentation. I will go ahead and jump right in. All right, so we'll start with the release plan summary. We are complete with the production implementations for 2024. We wrapped up the year with the modification of the MIBP hourly energy shaping factor as of trade date November 14. And then for TSMST2 for resale, that is live in production as of trade date the 16th. So notices went out for both of those. And thanks for everyone for your participation and engagement on both of those efforts through the policy and the market simulation, and then finally for the production implementation. So we are looking forward to independent 2025 releases, and then a lot of preparation for spring of 2026 activations, and then ongoing efforts for future releases. So for the independent 2025 releases, we have highest emergency rating for January. That's shifted from this year. We have hybrid resources phase 2C for REMS that's targeted for February. We have the CRR system upgrade in the queue for March. And then we are bringing back the CPM enhancements track 1 to the RUG. So we don't have specific slides for CPM at this time, so I will include those in the future RUG. But for those that want some background on CPM enhancements, you can review the stakeholder initiative page for the history on CPM enhancements and the materials related to the policy discussions for that. In May, we have transmission exchange agreement, so there are no changes to the scope for that, but the schedule has shifted a bit from this year into May of next year. For FERC 881, the track 1 is going to wrap up by the end of this year, and then we're going to focus on track 2. So if I could just ask folks to go on mute, please, if you're not speaking. All right, so for track 2, that's going to be the next big wave for 881, and that is planned for production in June. And then we have a couple other items that we're still working through the schedules for. We have the enabling of NGRs to participate in physical trades, and then also the remaining scope for the WEAM fab enhancements. We have 2 items that are left there. For spring 2026, I will be happy to present the updated timeline today that covers all of those activities for spring activation, including DAME, EDAM, and EDAM onboarding, as well as the EDAM ISO-BA participation rules. And I'm sorry, I should remove the reference. We're not referring to that as track A anymore. It'll just be EDAM ISO-BA participation rules. And then the EDAM onboarding, as I mentioned, for May and October of 2026. And then the WEM onboarding in May. For future releases, we have subscriber PTO model and the settlement upgrade project. So there's not going to be updates for today on both of those, but I left them in the presentation to queue up for future updates when we have more information available. All right, so I'll go ahead and move on. Oh, Alina, please go ahead.
Hi, Trang. Elena here. So for MIBP and transmission services, could you tell me what were the activation trade dates? I kind of missed it.
Yeah, and there were notices also for that you can refer to on kaiso.com for past notices. But for MIBP hourly energy shaping factor, that was trade date November 14th, and I may give or take a day or two to refer to that for the latest. And then for transmission service and market scheduling priorities, it's actually trade date December 16th. I think our target was by the 17th of December per the filing, and so we got everything in and enabled on as of the 16th of December.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Aline. Okay, I'll go ahead and move on to our BRS stakeholder dashboard. So you see the closed comment periods. There's nothing currently open. There are no comments open right now for any of the BRSs that we have available, but upcoming BRS revisions and comment periods will be are on their way for EDAM ISO/BA participation rules version 1.3, and I'll cover that when we get to that section. And then we also have a DAME version 1.4 BRS that's also planned very shortly. Each of those will have associated commenting periods, and we will also have our teams come and present the summary changes for both of those as well. Okay. So thanks to everyone for getting familiar with this process and providing feedback on the BRS review and stakeholder comment process. We look forward to enhancing this even more as we go forward. All right. So we'll go now into independent 2025 releases, where we have individual sections for each of those initiatives minus a CPM, which will be forthcoming. For highest emergency rating, no changes to the scope. I wanted to just highlight some market simulation and production schedule changes. So OMS for HER is already available in MapStage and has been for some time. And for the full market simulation, we plan to be able to kick that off January 6th and then have that go through the 20th to yield a production activation of January 21st. Okay. Any questions or comments there? Alina, you still have a hand up? I'm not sure if that is new. Okay. All right, so move on to hybrid resources 2C for RIMS. So going to the milestones here for the shape files, we plan to provide more information about that in the next year. And then for production, our schedule currently shows February 11th, and I think we're just reassessing and evaluating that. So at this point, that is what our target is, although this one may shift a little bit, so more to come on that. Any questions or comments on this one? All right. CRR upgrade. So I think we're familiar with the scope at this point, and so those remain there for reference. And for the milestones, there is a lot of communication about CRR happening in the monthly customer partnership group for CRR, and the last one was this afternoon. And then we also have the market simulation forums that are going in general that cover CRR, and then in February we will be kicking off CRR specific market simulation calls as well to support that customer testing. So just to go from the top down, the last customer partnership group meeting was today, and so stay tuned for that recording and those materials. So those will be available on the CPG site for you to refer to. Our next CPG is tentatively on for January 16. And then for market simulation, we did go over the schedule twice today, once in the CPG and then, of course, in the market simulation call, but it's also here for reference. And so the next activity in MapStage that will open up is the CRR connectivity testing, planned to start right after the holiday, the MLK holiday, so on January 21st, 2024. And then you'll see the other specific activities following after that for market simulation. And then due to the shift in the market simulation schedule, the production cutover also moved from February to March, so that shifted out a month. So those are some highlights on the CRR schedule, and I think that's the last slide that I have for CRR. So does anybody have any questions or comments on the CRR upgrade? Okay. Moving on to TEA, not a lot of change here. So we have the scope that's set, and we have work happening on this implementation. So the market simulation shifted, and we plan to start that no earlier than April is what the current schedule shows, but there is a possibility that that may shift out, and so that's why that's showing as tentative right now as the earliest market sim date. And so if we do proceed to market sim in April, I think the earliest activation would be in May of 2025. But we're still working with WAPA to coordinate the implementation between the CAISO team and WAPA and then their partners to be able to firm up that schedule. But this is the earliest schedule that we would see for market sim and production. Any questions or comments on this? All right. And then let's go on to FERC 881. So we do have several updates here for you. So we are also holding a lot of stakeholder meetings, so those are also reflected here too. And so I'll kind of go from the top as far as the bold new items. So we had a draft tariff language posted on December 6th. So that's available on the CAISO website. And we had a corresponding draft tariff language stakeholder discussion on December 16th. And then you should be able to access that recording also on the CAISO website. So that is to support the draft tariff filing on January 17th. And then we have a placeholder for the FERC acceptance of the tariff revisions. And for the BRS, again, we have 3 tracks for FERC 881. The BRS for track 2 was published in November. And then we plan for some updates and revisions to the BRS for track 2 in mid-January. In market simulation, you'll see us identify the WebLine R simulation from January to June. And so, so we do have a new application that we'll be making available, and we are covering that in the market simulation call as far as the expectations for the WebLine R UI, the API, and then the connectivity versus the full market simulation. We're also covering the technical details of that new application and its associated user and application programming interfaces. So there's a lot of information on that new application, WebLine R, on the dev site and in the FastTalk calls too, and we'll leave that as a standing item in the technical user group, the market sim call, and the RUG to make sure that we keep everybody up to date about all of those developments. But that market simulation, our plan for map stages to make that new UI available by at the beginning of January for some connectivity to start on that. And then I would like to take this opportunity to also say that the mock services for WebLine R to familiarize yourself with the APIs that will be coming. Those are available on the developer site too. And again, we mentioned that in the TUG, but I also wanted to cover our bases here too for those that are going to be impacted by this. So looking at production milestones, track 1 was already implemented in production, and we will, so we've marked that as complete. And then for track 2, which is our, what the WebLine R is a part of, and then where the latest BRS corresponds to, that is planned for production in June of 2025. And then for track 3, that will be a January to July 2026 phased implementation. So I want to just make a mention here that I know that there's discussions about track 3 and day ahead and the real-time component and implementation of this and how that will be coordinated with some of the EDAM activities. So we will have more details maybe when I cover the timeline for EDAM. I'll make a mention to this, and then we'll continue to do more detailed planning about what to expect for track 3 when it comes to the EDAM testing as well. Okay, so I have some more slides for 881. This is this is a summary of the few different tracks, and it goes a little bit more into detail about track 2 and all of the different phases that we have, and then where we are with track 3 as well. So I do want to call out some items for each of these tracks. For track 1, again, the capabilities to be ready by the end of December, and then the final changes are inactive until WebLine R is ready for production, which is planned for June of 2025. For track 2, that is our next immediate focus, and so that's for look-ahead ratings planned for production by June 2025. We have training mid-February, and then market simulation starting in January, and we break down the different activities there for connectivity, provisioning, the user interface data uploads, and then B2B API mock services, and then ultimately we'll have the actual integrated B2B API submissions and validation, and then with that, we'll be able to roll into the formal market simulation for the unstructured scenarios. For track 3, we have that phased implementation, and that is also covered in the stakeholder call on the 16th. Comments are open for that stakeholder call specific to the tariff language, and then again, by January 17, we plan to file an extension with FERC. Okay, so I'm going to go over the timeline here. So this is just a visual that represents the milestones that I just covered. And I believe that's, and then this is also just more detail on each of, that supports that timeline. So that's the last slide for 881. Are there any questions or comments on this? All right. Not seeing any, so I'll go on. And I'm sorry, there's still more information on 881. So this is just supporting information on the timeline as well. And we've already covered this in the stakeholder call, but it's a good reference to have. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next independent effort. This is enabling non-generating resources to participate in inter-SC trades. And so this has been on the queue for some time, and it's a fairly minor effort, but we're looking for the right time to fit this in with all of the other projects and implementations that we have. So we'll keep this in the queue, and as we work on defining a schedule, we will communicate that out for each of the components that we have certainty on. Okay, any questions or comments on NGRs for inter-SC trades? All right. Okay, and then for WEAM enhancements, you'll see a list of 5 items. In 2024, we were able to implement 3 of those. So I want to draw your attention to the 2 remaining items. So number 2 for hourly base ETSR schedule redundancy. So again, this was identified as an enhancement as part of the Fab 5 enhancements. However, this is going to be pursued as a standalone project. And then for item number 4, that is in the current published BRS for the WEAM enhancements. So this dynamic ETSR limits safety net is still being pursued as an independent effort, and so we still need to work through the schedule details of that, but both of those are still in queue. Again, one that will close out the implementation of the currently published BRS, and then another one will be represented in in future requirements. Okay. So this is just a little bit more information on the dynamic ETSR limits safety net to wrap up the enhancements as part of the current published BRS. Any questions or comments on this enhancement? All right. Okay, so we have a lot of updates for spring 2026 release. So I wanted to start with the timeline. Okay. So I apologize that this is kind of a busy graphic, but hopefully it provides some clarity on what we're expecting for 2026. But first, I'll take Alina's comment.
Sorry, Trang, I'm interrupting you. Could you go to the slide of that ETSR initiative?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it says 2024. Is it a 2024 project?
No, I will be moving that. Yep, because it was initially planned for 2024, but now that we're at the end of the year, this is going to shift to next year. So thank you. I'll update that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so back to the timeline then. And Alina, you still have your hand up, so just if you could just speak up if you need anything else. Okay. All right, so this is the timeline for 2026, and then also just a little preview into 2027, and it's focused on DAME, EDAM, DAME implementation, DAME configurable parameters, EDAM implementation, EDAM onboarding, and EDAM ISO BA participation rules, and then also the WEIM onboarding as well. So there's a lot of activities that are underway now, and this is again not all inclusive of all of the activities, but this is focused on the map stage and stage environment where a lot of where the customer testing will be happening for all of that. So I think, just to start with, I want to highlight some changes from what was communicated before, and then I can go into more. So the biggest change that you'll see is that the DAME market simulation that was set to start earlier in the summer of 2025 has actually shifted now to align with the EDAM implementation and onboarding market simulation. So now when you see market simulation in the first section of map stage, you'll see that that includes DAME implementation, EDAM implementation, as well as EDAM onboarding for our first EDAM entity for PacifiCorp, and also the EDAM ISO BA participation rules. Even though it's not listed there, I'll add that, but that's how the code will be going into production, and so we are taking that opportunity to perform all of those market simulations together starting September 1st of 2025. So I think that's the biggest change, is that shift where we will not have a separate DAME implementation market simulation that starts before 9/1. We'll actually have the market simulation starting 9/1 be for all of those initiatives that I just mentioned. So as far as detailed planning, so I'll continue to work on that and provide more information, but I know that, or we all know that there are a lot of settlements changes for that whole program and release. And so even though we are starting market simulation September 1st, we know that there is a desire to see some of the code and even sample statements prior to that. And so I wanted to kind of proactively address some of those questions right now. So you'll see that we have integration testing for EDAM onboarding starting June 1st. So during that time, we do plan to have most, if not all, of the code in the map stage environment for that integration testing. And then we will need to also run our ISO end-to-end or market simulation preparation testing prior to 9/1. And so to do that, we will plan to provide sample settlement statements during that EDAM onboarding integration testing. So I think from those that are familiar with market simulation, you'll be familiar with the connectivity period. So this EDAM onboarding integration testing is for PacifiCorp, but during that time, that will be implementation connectivity testing, where we'll plan to have the code available for those that are testing DAME and EDAM interfaces. You'll be able to do connectivity during that time. And then starting by 8/1, if not sooner, we'll produce some sample statements. We're working to determine the frequency and the trade dates of that, but at least by 8/1, and at least for the month prior to the market simulation starting, there will be statements produced in map stage for connectivity. So that may be once a week, or it could be more, and we're working to define that right now, so that we can publish a calendar for statements, and then also give you an opportunity to check out not only the interfaces but also some of the sample statements ahead of that market sim. So that's a big update. And then you'll also see the DAME parameter analysis effort is shown here too. So we did have the DAME configurable parameter working group, which already touched on this updated schedule. So you got a preview of this new market simulation schedule there. So that does account for the shift in the start of DAME market simulation. Okay, and then another change from before is that I know that we had targeted to have all of the DAME and EDAM implementation code deployed into production by fall release of 2025, which would be October 1st. And I think that the update that you'll see here is that while we do plan to move code in as soon as fall of 2025 by October 1st, we may be continuing to deploy code to production and then finalize that no later than February 1st, 2026. So we will be able to provide more expectations as far as by system and interface what will be deployed into production during that time, but I wanted to provide that window and just kind of give you a preview of our strategy for production as well. Okay, and then when it comes to that program's activation, so 5/1/26, so that has not changed. We do plan to activate DAME, EDAM, ISO, BA participation rules, as well as PacifiCore as an EDAM. So those will all be locked to go together through market simulation, through parallel ops, and then into production. Okay. So I want to touch on the additional swim lanes first, and then I'll stop and I'll go back to comments and questions. Okay, so our next set of activities is going to be the onboarding for PGE, for Portland General as an EDAM entity, and we are staggering the market simulation and parallel operations activities for PGE because that is, they will go to activate in production October 1st, so we wanted to make sure that we preserved the ability for us to have market simulation and parallel ops with that first set of changes without Portland to be able to test the same way that will go into production. And then for PGE, we'll build on top of that set of changes and then have a market simulation with PGE on top of everything else that already went live. And then the parallel ops will follow that sequence as well. And then on October 1st of 2026, we will activate Portland General as an EDAM entity. And then the next swim lane kind of shows the soonest that we would start market simulation or parallel operations for any EDAM entrants after 2026, and we're working to refine that, but that's just to illustrate that that same staggering where for every production activation, we want to make sure that we have a period in map stage and stage that corresponds to that same configuration so that we have true testing of what is going to go live at a certain release. And then finally, we have at the bottom the WEIM onboarding, and that is a traditional onboarding, and we did work around and stagger a little bit of the activities to ensure the proper support for the WEIM onboarding market sim and parallel ops. So what that means is that so for market sim and for parallel operations, we will start those with just the EDAM onboarding, and then we will activate the WEAM onboarding entities. So for production, WEAM goes live 5 days after DAME, EDAM, and then PAC. And so we have a little bit of that same sequence in MapStage and Parallel Ops 2, where we'll start again with DAME, EDAM, and PAC, and then introduce the WEAM. Okay. All right. So this will be here. I'll publish the presentation today. It should make it out by tomorrow, so you can reference that, and then we'll continue to add details to this as we move on, and I'll cover that at the future release user groups, and we'll have this on the market simulation presentation as well to provide more and more details as we proceed forward. Okay, so with that, I want to take a couple hands. So Krishanti, you can start.
Thank you so much for, first of all, thank you so much for merging the DAME and EDAM algorithm testing. That saves us a lot of time. My question was, I noticed that you're deploying DAME, EDAM in February, but you're activating it in production in May. Do you have any specific reason why there is that 5-month period? Is there a possibility of activating in production early of 2026 in future?
So for the activation, we would not be able to move that sooner. So, and the reason why, I can give you the background. The reason why is just because all of that code will need to go together. So DAME, like I said, EDAM, and then PAC as an EDAM entity, and then the ISO BA as well. And so the activation is 5.1 because there's readiness for PacifiCore as our, as an EDAM entity that's onboarding. And so we want to make sure that they have an opportunity to go through the market simulation and the parallel operations before to vet the readiness for their activation. And so you can see that the parallel operations right now is going through mid to late March. And so so we definitely want to make sure that that activity is successful. We meet, the parallel ops. In parallel operations, we meet the readiness criteria for PAC to activate as an EDAM, and so it definitely we wouldn't want it to be earlier than that.
Okay. So
yeah.
On the corollary side, then is it given to understand that if that market simulation of PacifiCore finishes early or later, then it may affect our production activation of DAME EDAM?
If the DAME, if the market simulation finishes early, then we would still want to take advantage of that time for additional parameter analysis for DAME, as well as to allow other unstructured testing where needed. And so, so I don't think that we would end market simulation earlier. If we were able to execute all of the scenarios for DAME, EDAM, and then for PAC earlier, then that's great. But we would continue some unstructured testing and then allow for additional analysis by our teams to do that. So does that help? So we wouldn't end market simulation early. If we did the scenarios, we would continue to support other activities in market sim to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to do testing, even those that are not onboarding or even existing WEAM entities, for example, and such.
Got it. Okay. Postponement is also not possible, correct? Of fact, it's me.
Yeah, that would. This is the schedule, and so yeah, and those are one of the things that I think that at this time, we would just have to address if there were issues significant enough as we go through the implementation, and then kind of decide from there. But at this time, this is set.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Krishanti. All right, Chen Yu, please go ahead.
Hi, Trang. This is Chen Yu from PG&E. Sorry if any questions that you may already go over it. I apologize because I just joined. Thank you so much for putting all this information on the page so we can have a very good visibility. So I couple questions. One is that you did mention parallel operation, and I do not
Mhm.
see that on the schedule. So that it's still going on, right, after the deployment of the code.
Parallel operations is on the schedule. I'm sorry, I have an acronym there. So where you see the stage environment and then the boxes that are labeled PO, they're all the green boxes. Those are the
Oh,
parallel
okay.
operations activities. I'm sorry, I'm so used to using acronyms, but
No,
especially
this
because
is,
of the limited real estate. Okay.
yeah. Okay. Okay, this is great. This is great. So I think then the next question I have, it's related to what was communicated in the parameters configuration call.
Mhm.
And looks like the analysis is starting from August. So is that analysis that Guillermo and team going to do, is it going to be in map stage or in stage? I think I just want to.
Yeah, it will be both. Yeah,
It will be both?
it will be both.
Okay.
And I have some slides that will kind of re-summarize that I took from the working group that that we worked together on. So I'll recap that, but the answer is both. So to summarize, is we already know the values that we will set for market simulation. So the analysis in Market Sim will happen on that initial set of values that we already have identified now. And then those values will, based on the analysis, those may be tuned, and then another value set for parallel operations, and then additional analysis on either the existing or the tuned values will happen in parallel ops.
I see. Okay. I guess the later we would definitely would like to know more about that setting and the data. And another question, this is more related to the parameter configuration meeting happening on December 12th. And we saw that on the calendar, CAISO 6 common, but we don't see a link for common. I don't know if you have any insight for that, or should I reach out to the stakeholders team?
No, we definitely plan to have that, and it should be there. But I wonder if they may have, I don't remember the comment deadline. And so
January 3rd.
It was this January 3rd. Okay, thank you. Then I will check that because it should be there. So
yes, I will like to see it because we do have just general couple comments we think we will share, but also if the link's not there, can I just send it to you before, because I'm going to take
yes,
some time
please
off.
go ahead and send your comments, and we do apologize for any difficulty with the tool, but I'll check into that because I do see that the comments aren't there, but I'll have to see if internally we have that open. So I'll look into that, but please do send your comments anyway. And you can also copy the ISO stakeholder email group as well as to make sure that they're also alerted of that. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Great. Thanks. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Geeta, please go ahead.
Hi, Trang. Thank you for sharing this information. I have a question on that August timeframe where you mentioned there would be settlement statement.
Yeah.
What's the basis for the statement? Are you stating production data, or do we submit its participants submit?
Okay. So let's see. Okay. Okay. So for August, for actually the 6/1 through 9/1 period. So I didn't state, but there's a bubble here that shows that on 6/1 or by 6/1 of 2025, we do plan to activate DAME, EDAM, and PAC in the map stage environment. So the expectation is that the code is there, the functionality is active, and we will still be doing some testing. So that's why we won't be able to start Market Sim then, but we do plan to have the code in map stage and active. And so we will be using that native map stage data to generate sample statements. And like I said, so by 8/1, we will start producing statements in map stage. Again, we're trying to determine if it's going to be once a week and what those trade dates are, and then also if there's a possibility possibility to even publish sooner. And again, these are considered, connectivity statements, which, that concept is really that we're going to produce them, but the quality of data is not certified yet. So this is more just to get you familiar with the settlements and all of the changes that we're implementing, but the quality will not be certified until we start market simulation. But it won't be seeded. It will be native map stage data.
I see.
Geeta, does that help? Okay.
Yeah. So still the August statement may have awards for the new products that are coming on, right?
Yes, that is right, is that the new products will have data, because we will need that data to kind of do our readiness to start the market simulation with you. And so there will be data in the environment in map stage. The distinction is that the quality of solution there and the data quality is not yet vetted until we start the formal market simulation by 9/1. But you will have data for connectivity purposes because we're also doing our testing during that time. But it is considered test data.
Okay. And I assume since for even parallel ops and market sim, FISO intend to use production data, seeding production data, that means that the market participants are not going to be submitting anything until September.
No, that's not necessarily true, is that whatever interfaces are available in map stage, you'll have access to. So if there's submissions that you're doing in map stage, that data will show up in the map stage environment.
Okay, thank you. And one last question. So the 5/1 go live, 5/1/2026, is that, I expect that that's dependent on the success of parallel ops and not just solely based on market sim. Is that a reasonable assumption?
Yes, that is an accurate expectation. And again, it's, we're talking about the whole package at this point, because if it were just a DAME implementation, for example, we don't typically have parallel operations. That's specific to onboarding. But because the onboarding is tied with the implementation of DAME and EDAM, then we do have that expectation that parallel operations is successful prior to that activation in production.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Trang.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Chenyu, please go ahead.
Yes, so just kind of follow up on the environment in the data condition. So I probably missed something. So starting from September 2nd, I'm not sure you have decided yet. It's the map stage data. It's going to be seeded data, or it's the combination of seeded data and market participants submitted data?
Okay, so that's a good question. The answer would be like it is today, which is both. So what we'll do is in the market simulation plan and scenarios, we'll set up kind of the data expectations. So I'll give you an example of how it's done today, and this extends to what you can expect for that market sim period, which is that we at this point, in order to keep the environment running, we have to have base data there. And so map stage today, we do seed bids, for example, just so that there's data for the markets to run. And then participants have the ability to overwrite that data that we seed. So right now we have a timeline for when we seed day ahead or real-time bids, but then we communicate those out. So if you want to overwrite those bids that we seed, then you can do so. And so that will extend into that period for definitely for bids, and then we will confirm as far as the any other data. But forecast data, for example, I think is going to be a big component of this that we want to be clear about what the expectations are, and then bid data, and then anything else. So that data setup plan will be incorporated into the market simulation plan and scenarios too.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And I know Martin's on. He's our new market simulation coordinator, and he's on top of all of this. I know he can't wait to jump in and provide you that information too. Okay, Isaac, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Trang. This is Isaac
Hey.
SC. I just wanted to follow up on a question that Geeta raised earlier regarding the August timeframe for connectivity testing. Understand that you guys will be seeding market bids into the MapStage environment, but those market bids will not have the new products, right? So are we then allowed to basically overwrite those bids with the new products
And so
and
you're
see results?
go ahead. So you're talking about the IRU, IRD products,
Yes,
right?
correct.
Yeah. And so
Yes.
that's one thing that I need to confirm is because I'm trying to recall a conversation I had with the project team, but I believe that there might be some seeding of those new products as well, because I think those are submitted via the bids anyway. And so that's information that I need to follow up on, Isaac. But I think that there was some of that we were planning to seed as well for the new products. But then to
Okay,
answer the
so
other part of your
Kaizo
question, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So Kaizo will be seeding the new bids for the new products from somewhere as well. But so you're not requiring the market participants to submit those bids in the August timeframe prior to market sim start in September, right?
Yeah,
Just wanted to
because
clarify.
and that's a good distinction, right? Is that it's both. So we will need some data in order for us to run the scenarios before we start market sim with you, and that's to prove that the scenarios are successful, and then just to meet our readiness criteria to start market simulation. So my understanding at this time is that we will submit data for those new products as well, so that we can demonstrate our scenarios internally before we execute those with you. And then, and as I clarified with Geeta too, is that the environment will be open, so whatever interfaces are available and whatever you submit will still go into the environment. So so there's one part of it, which is that we will have some data provided, but that would not stop you from submitting other data. And those are things that I'll double check with the team, but that's the understanding as of now.
Okay, thank you, Trang.
All right. Okay, thanks, Isaac. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you for all of the thoughtful feedback so far, and then we look forward to more information that we can provide. Krishanti, please go ahead.
Hi, Trang. This is not related to DAME.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you covered this in the initial slides. I'm sorry I missed those. This is about CRR. Its simulation for CRR was postponed from December 16th, right?
Correct. Yeah, the new target is January 21st for the connectivity to begin.
January 21st. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, that was, thank you, Krishanti. Okay, I'm going to move forward then in this because we also have exciting training updates. And I think, let me see if our training rep is still on. Okay, and Radha, if you can unmute, I will move over to your training program update. All right. Radha? Okay, there you are. Okay, I just saw you unmuted. Let me go ahead and move. There you go. Please go ahead.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Radha Madrigal, and I'm from the Customer Readiness team. And as Trang was putting together this timeline, I thought it'd be a good idea. We've been receiving some questions for when the training is going to be coming for these projects. So I wanted to share all of that with you in kind of a one-stop shop location on this slide. So we are going to be providing training for all of these efforts across a variety of work streams. So in April of next year, for those onboarding entities, we're going to be kicking off Train the Trainer sessions for those EDAM entity designated trainers. Those are closed sessions for the onboarding entities only. And then for the larger audience in the pre-market sim timeframe, so August of next year, we'll be setting up DAME overview training, a separate session on DAME itself, and another one for settlements specific, as well as a separate session for the CAISO BAA participation rules. So that activity will take place. We've got some tentative dates put out there for you, but as it is, a year away, those dates may shift slightly. Our goal is to have that training take place 1 to 2 weeks before Market Sim, heading towards the 2 weeks prior for that activity. And then you'll see that Market Sim will take place. And because the training is happening so far in advance of the go live, we'll also do a refresher session as we get closer to go live for all of these efforts as well. So you'll see, I'm not going to read all these little bullets here to you, but you'll see that information there for you at a high level. And essentially, we're helping you to be prepared for training and getting ready prior to Market Sim, and then again, a refresher before go live in May of 2026. Any questions, folks, on this slide?
Thank you so much, Radha. I don't see any hands up and nothing in the chat. So we're happy that this information is available and very clear, and this will be posted again in this presentation today. Okay, all right. Then I'll continue to move on. Thanks again, Radha. All right, so for project-specific updates, now that we've kind of covered everything, all the cross-project impacts earlier, let's go into DAME. All right, so for DAME, again, for the BRS version 1.4, that will be published by December 23rd, and then our next release user group will be January 7, and so we do have the BRS walkthrough of the changes planned for January 7 at the next release user group. And then for upcoming milestones, you'll see that the BPM revisions, or the PRRs, are planned for April 25 of 2025. And then for the training, sorry about that note there, but Radha just covered the training, and so I'll sync up this slide with what she had just presented. And then the market simulation window, again, now is aligned with the EDAM simulation, as we covered in the overall timeline. So production deployment, as I mentioned, is no later than February 1st, and then production activation May 1st. Any questions on this? Okay, kind of quickly go through. Okay, so this is just reminders from the DAME configurable parameters working group. So this is the timeline for the configurable parameters working group, and just some reminders. So we had the second stakeholder meeting already, and so we had 2 working group implementation meetings that are available on the stakeholder initiative site. So those, if you want to listen into those and review the materials, please do so. And then you'll see that we will have a kickoff call in August of 2025, and that'll just kind of lead into those values that will be set for market simulation, and then the analysis that we'll be doing. And then you'll see that there are monthly implementation working groups for the configurable parameters. Once we are in market simulation and have started the analysis, we'll report out on that. And then also the progression towards parallel operations all the way through to March. Now I have a couple more slides for reminders of this. The working group for configurable parameters is based on the DAME and EDAM schedule that I covered. And so this includes market simulation and parallel operations. And then important to note, too, is that although this effort for the configurable parameters will happen with market simulation and parallel operations, it is independent. So meaning that, you know, the scenarios that we're running for DAME and EDAM and that market simulation and the parallel operations related to implementation and onboarding, those are going to be happening at the same time, but that criteria as it relates to production readiness is going to be different than the configurable parameter efforts. So we want to be really focused about those discussions and those being 2 distinct sets of activities as we go, continue forward, okay? And then the last one is just another summary of the interaction between the market simulation and parallel ops, and then as the configurable parameter working groups, as well as some references for the market sim and parallel ops. So, Chanyu, I'll pause here for your comment.
Yeah, I just have a question on the BRS 1.4 that in your previous slide that saying it's going to be published soon. I just want
Yep.
to get an idea. It's a big revision or is a minor revision?
Yeah, and Amr is on, and I looked at the revision history, but I didn't publish it yet because I want you to see that when the BRS is published. But it is there are quite a few revisions in that. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's pretty large. But Amr, if you wanted to add any comment as far as themes of the changes, please feel free to do so now. Unmute yourself and do so. But otherwise, Tanu, I would just, that's, you'll be able to see that, but based on my review, it is quite a long list of revisions.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Okay, good. Thanks. Okay. I will move on to EDAM. So for EDAM, let's just take a peek at the milestones here. So just upcoming milestones are going to be the BPMs, which will be in 2025. For just a preview for you all too is that for settlements and billing, the final PRR will likely be actually in 2026. All right, we have the BPS already, and some of these other PRRs may be sooner, but for settlements and billing, I think we confirmed with the team that, we'll continue to provide configuration outputs and technical documentation, but for the final PRR of this, we're going to plan to have those closer to the activation date of May, and so I think no later than March of 2026 for the settlements and billing PRR. So just wanted to mention that here, and then we'll provide the more defined dates for those. Okay, and then for market simulation, we talked through that schedule. And then for the activation, that'll be May, and then the Pacificor activation will be May, and then for Portland General, they will activate as an EDAM in fall of 2026, October 1st. And then we have the implementation agreement signed by bank, and so they are looking for a 2027 activation. All right, any questions or comments on EDAM? All right, so moving on to ISO BA participation rules. So we have highlighted here that there are unapproved tariff changes, but those are filed as of November 14th, pending the FERC order. And then on to the milestones, you'll see some highlighted changes here. So we do plan to publish version 1.3 of the BRS by December 23rd, and then that will be queued up for a future RUG for the team to present the changes there. And then we will have draft config guide updates to EDAM access charge. That is TBD at this time, but will be forthcoming. And then for the market simulation, we will be making updates to the fall release market simulation plan, and then to include this project. And then we will also be publishing a specific scenario document for the ISO BA participation rules. The market simulation itself, again, is part of that overall release with DAME and EDAM, and so the schedule is aligned there. And then the production, deployment, and activation also align with that whole DAME and EDAM set. All right, any questions or comments on this? All right, Tanu, please go ahead.
Yeah, just seeing that market sim scenarios, it's going to be December 27, 2025. Just wonder, it's that a mistake?
Yeah, that should be 2024. So
okay.
We'll update that. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you definitely, you want those before the market sim. So yeah, we'll update that. Thanks. All right, so let's move on to WEIM BHE Montana. So the market sim and parallel ops is already on that overall timeline that we presented, and there's no changes to this slide. We're continuing to move forward with the onboarding of WEIM for Montana. And this should also list Black Hills. So I will add that here too. So we do have 2 onboarding entities for this WEIM spring release. Okay, any questions on this? All right. And then for future releases, I mentioned I don't have updates on these, but we'll leave this in the presentation for subscriber PTO model. You can see the impacts, although we don't have schedules associated to all of those yet. You can at least see what's coming. And then for settlement upgrade, our next quarterly update is in January. So we'll work to see if we have a new rebaseline schedule to communicate then. So I'm going to kind of go through quickly to the supporting slides for settlements and then just go here. The next release user group will resume at its normal date and time and schedule, Tuesday, January 7 at 10 a.m. Pacific. And then we really look forward to continuing the conversations on a regular basis in the new year. All right. Any final questions, comments at all? All right. Thank you all very much and have a wonderful rest of the year and holiday. And again, we look forward to, thank you for everything you've done. And we look forward to talking to you and working with you more in the new year. All right.
Thank you,
Have a great
Trang.
day. Yeah. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Trang.